Alright, another video here from the Brookings Arts Council. As always, my name is Shelby. I am going to be doing something a little bit festive for Thanksgiving today. Just with it coming up, it's a little hard not to get in the mood. Just a fall, the season change, Christmas is coming up. We'll probably do one of those videos in a couple weeks. But for today, we're going to do kind of a fall leaf drawing, and so I'm going to show you how to draw like maybe a different couple kinds of leaves, and then we're going to work on color, like blending colors, so shading and using colored pencils more than likely, or crayons would work too, and kind of getting them to go from like one color to the next. So doing like an ombre is the best way I found to describe it. And so very first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to draw a couple different kinds of leaves, because that's the first step here, and you can have as many different ones as you want. You want them to be fairly big but not huge, so completely up to you. And for supplies, I just have my pencil, just some regular old copy paper, and then I do have my colored pencils here just because I like to blend and kind of shade with colored pencils. But like I said, if you want to do crayons, that works also. I wouldn't recommend markers just because they're going to be really difficult to blend, and your paper will probably rip because it'll get too wet. I always like to give you a lot of choice, but yeah, colored pencils or crayons this week would be the best for this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a regular old leaf. Like, it doesn't have to be super spectacular, and the first one I'm going to do is just like probably the simplest one, and I'm just going to start by drawing kind of a curved line, just like so. So I just drew this like curved line, and that's really just the middle part of that leaf, because if you've looked at leaves, I'm sure you have, they kind of fold in the middle, it looks like, and they're the same on either side. So that's called symmetry. So they're symmetrical. It's just easiest to kind of start with that, just because then you have kind of a baseline of where you're at. It's a little easier to go from there. And so with that curved line that I have first, I'm going to add the other side of the leaf. And so I get just one side, so now it kind of looks like a banana. And so that middle part is that vein in the middle of the leaf there. And then I just added this curved. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to add this other curve to complete the other half of that leaf. So that's what we got. Looks a little bit more like a leaf now. And the last step here with this one is I'm just going to add a stem. So really super simple. If you want to use just this one, that's fine. I think sometimes like simple is probably the best, and so I'm probably going to use that one. I'll do I think it's like I'm not sure what kind of leaf it is. I'm not well versed on like trees, but just a little bit more difficult one that's a little bit wavier. And so that one, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start with that middle vein in there. It's a little bit longer and skinnier than this one, but that's all right. So that one we're going to do. And I'm going to have you start at the top and not touching the vein. So like I want like a little bit of space, and you're just going to draw like one little like curved line that goes this way, right at the top of the leaf, and then from there you're gonna do the curves around. It's just that vein doesn't necessarily go all the way to the tip. It gets a little bit hard to kind of draw that way. So once you have that top curve, you're gonna go on one side and you're just gonna add some more curves. I'm sure you've seen these leaves around. It's either an oak or a maple leaf, like I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so you're just going to draw the one half of that leaf like that. And then, like I said, that vein, they're typically pretty symmetrical. So then you're just going to draw a really similar thing like this on the other side and connect them down here. That's where the leaf will end. And so try and get it as best you can. It's not always exactly perfect, but it just, you want it to at least have the same amount of space taken up. And my stem is a little short, so I'm just going to add on a little bit there with the stem, and then I'm just going to extend that vein up to the top so that it looks a little bit more normal. And my leaf isn't super great. I find these ones really kind of difficult to draw. I'm probably going to do a whole bunch of these ones, but for right now I'm going to show you some blending techniques. So I'm going to just take out my colored pencils. You can use whichever colors you want, typically colors that are closer to each other on the color wheel. So like if you stick with like warm colors or cool colors, those typically will blend together a little bit easier because you get colors in between that you recognize and that aren't just like brown. Because if you mix like red and green, you're gonna get kind of a weird brown gray kind of color, which if that's what you're into, like by all means please do. But if not, I would stick with like, if you're gonna do warm colors because it's fall, like I would do red, orange, and then maybe yellow. Or, you know what I mean, if you want brown, like brown, red, and orange. So like colors that are next to each other, it would be an analogous color scheme if you want the technical language, but I'm gonna just do fall colors. So I'm gonna do red and orange and yellow, just because it's fall and that's what we're kind of like in the mood for. But yeah, choose whichever colors you want. It's the same technique either way. And so I'm just gonna start my colored pencil and I'm gonna start coloring, really. And so the first thing you need to decide is if you want it to blend from red here to orange down here, or red here to orange over here. And I want to do red to orange down at the bottom. And so it's just personal preference. And so the first thing, I'm gonna outline a little bit, just kind of the edge of that leaf so I know where I'm coloring. And I'm just gonna color in, not with like one sharp line across the bottom, but just kind of a generic, I mean, you don't want to start off or like cut off the red in like one place all the way across a straight line. Otherwise you'll see a straight line and it's a little bit easier to tell, like, oh, like that's where they were blending. It just looks a little cleaner if the line that your red stops at is jagged. And another kind of thing to remember is you're not going to color the whole area of red the same like pressure. Like it'll be darker and kind of shaded more where it's all red, and then you're going to get lighter as you get closer to where it's going to transition, just because it's easier to blend that way. You'd want to use little teeny circles when you're coloring. Don't color like this because you'll get lines, but if you use little circles, it blends a little bit easier. So I'm just about done with my red, and I'll show you that. And so, like I said, you want it to be darker at the tip, and then as I got in here a little bit further, it's lighter. And like I said, you don't want to go like a straight line across, otherwise you'll be able to see that straight line. Mine goes, it kind of follows the curve of that leaf around, and there's not really like one set spot where it stops being red. So when you're done with the red, just set it aside so you remember which one you used, and I'm gonna go right into my orange. So I have my orange colored pencil, and I'm gonna just start where I have all orange. And so at the bottom of my leaf here, I want it to be completely orange. And so I'm gonna just do the same thing. Again, you want it to be dark where it's completely orange. So that stem is gonna be really kind of a dark, bright orange. I colored pretty hard. And then coloring up to where I left off with the red. And if you want to use more than two colors, you're sure welcome to use more than two colors. You would just, I would do the two ends first and then fill in the middle with that middle color that you chose, is what I would do. And again, if you're having trouble being able to see like pencil lines as you're coloring, it helps to hold your pencil like further back. It just makes it a little easier to color lightly. I'm just coloring in. And I actually have a lot of white space in between, and so I'm actually going to use a yellow in between. I'm going to do the three colors for you just because my leaf is a little bit bigger than I had thought. But I'll show you when I'm done with the orange how I left off with the orange before I go in with another color here. All right. And so I have my red like I did, I have my orange, it goes from really dark to really light, and you can see it a little bit better, like it's all the way up in here colored, just really, really lightly. And so I have that middle part of the leaf that's still not colored in, and I have kind of this like really like, it's like an orangey yellow, I guess, that I'm gonna use in the middle. And so for that part, you're gonna start really lightly first, where you left off with the orange, and overlap the colors. You don't want them butted up next to each other because then you're going to see a clean line, but you want to actually color over top of those two colors or one color that you're blending it with. Really lightly, you don't want it dark. And then as you get in the middle, you can fill that in a little bit, and it'll just blend those two kind of colors together. So it'll be a really kind of clean transition between those colors. Doing three colors is definitely harder, so if you want to stick with two, please do. You can always add another color with another leaf. You don't have to do just one, you can do multiples. But as I'm coloring, I'm going to talk about when you're done with your kind of blending colors and like shading lesson. The leaves you can either color in the background because it's just going to be a white background, which is kind of boring. So you can color it in. Maybe you draw like a fall scene. Maybe you want to cut out the leaves and glue them on like a colored piece of paper, like a black piece of paper. Like that is another way to finish it. So I'm going to show you my leaf here is just about colored in and done. So that's what we got. So it goes from red to kind of yellow to orange, like pretty smoothly. Like you can see that it's not just like a stripe of color, like they blend together and kind of you see that transition a little bit more. And so that is the lesson today, blending and kind of a little bit of shading too, I would suppose. I'm gonna cut mine out and put them on black paper just because that's my personal preference. But yeah, finish it however you want to finish it. If you have questions, concerns, suggestions for this video or future videos, please reach out to the Brookings Arts Council. Either email or Facebook is a really great way to do that. But yeah, that's all I got for you. And I mean, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, and it's great to see you. And I'll see you again next week.